I don't have any jokes about fizzes, but the town of Angostura is now called Ciudad Bolivar. Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's Wednesday, we have a cocktail video coming at you. Today we are continuing with our bitterly cold February. Last week we had a very new cocktail from 2011. Today we have a very old cocktail, a relatively old cocktail from 1908. We are doing the Angostura Fizz, which comes from Dr. Sigurd's Angostura cocktail recipe booklet. Now this is going to be interesting. This cocktail is going to be a relatively low proof cocktail. It does have one special thing in that it is the first cocktail we are going to see is using Angostura bitters as the base spirit, which I know sounds a little crazy. We know a little bit about the history of the cocktail. Let's go ahead and get the ingredients up here and toss it in a shaker and see what we think about it. Okay, as you can see, we've got our limited little ingredients here. Again, our only alcohol in this is going to be our Angostura bitters. Now, one thing, if you're making this cocktail, you're going to go ahead and take off your little dasher top because we are way past dashing bitters. We are straight pouring them. First thing I'm going to do, I've never done this before, but given this cocktail, I think it's probably a little bit appropriate. You're going to give a little taste just to our Angostura bitters by themselves. Angostura smells great. It's a very kind of like spiced and a little bit spicy kind of a nose and kind of a flavor. It's also very rich. Here we go. It's a lot of cinnamon, a lot of baking spices. Very strong, very strong. I believe the alcohol content on this is 44.7%, which is, I mean, it's higher than your sort of entry-level bottle of spirit, but not particularly high proof for this channel, certainly. So the proof isn't really what gets you, it's just that it's a very, very intense flavor. Again, just baking, like a nutmeg, allspice, cinnamon, just very kind of intense flavor. Yeah, it's good stuff. Just very, 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 very flavorful. So we're doing a fizz. We're going to start off with a simple syrup. Now, one note on here. I've looked at several recipes. There's some recipes that call for grenadine. I went back and looked at the original and it does not call for grenadine, so I am not going to use it. If you want to toss a little in there, again, I think also with the amount of simple syrup that we're using here, yeah, we're going to toss half an ounce of simple in here, and I think that's plenty of sweetness. So we're going to start off with that. Just simple syrup, no grenadine. Also, the original recipe calls for lemon juice. I've seen some of the more recent ones call for lime, so I'm going to start off with lemon, and when we taste it, we'll see if maybe that was a mistake or not. So 1 ounce of lemon juice. Okay, next we're going to go with our egg white. Anytime I do a cocktail like this, I always kind of put my heavy cream in last because I know that the heavy cream and the citrus don't really get along very well together and you'll have to emulsify. This is going to be sort of similar because it's a fizz. You know, we did our Ramos Gin Fizz last month. This one we will not be shaking for 5 minutes. We'll just be shaking for a normal amount of time. But it's got a lot of similarities because it's a similar type of cocktail. Okay, got our egg white in there. One other thing about Ango, you don't really think about it since you're typically using it a fairly limited amount per cocktail. It is actually kind of an expensive spirit. I got the big bottle. I think this is a 473 milliliter. It's an odd amount. It actually is kind of expensive, especially if you're using it as a full pour. In this case, we're going to use 1 ounce of our Angostura bitters. People not familiar with this, that probably seems like an awful lot of Angostura bitters, because it is. All right, and finally, we're just going to toss in a half an ounce of our heavy cream. So first of all, we just want to pour this in here and give it a nice dry shake. Once you get your good dry shake in, Go ahead and get some ice in here and give it a wet shake. One other thing to note on here, I think people are curious how much ice to put in your shaker. One thing to consider is how high proof your cocktail is. So this, for example, is going to be a relatively low proof cocktail. So I'm not going to put a ton of ice in here because otherwise it might cool some of those ingredients down enough to actually freeze them, and we don't want to do that. All right, let's give it our wet shake. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and double strain that into our chilled coupe glass. And we're going to give that just a moment. And we're going to just top that off with just a little bit of seltzer. Give that head just a few moments to hang on there. All right. And there we have our Angostura Fizz. Doesn't have quite the head that our Ramos Gin Fizz did, but then again, my arms aren't nearly as tired after this one. That's really interesting. It's very alive. It's very kind of spiced. The Angostura has been diluted enough that you can sort of taste the little individual baking spices, and it doesn't just kind of hit you like a train right off the bat. The egg white and the cream are emulsified, not to the point they were on our Ramos Gin Fizz, to the point where it's actually coming up out of the glass, but they're well emulsified. You don't get any egg white. You really want to make sure with any egg white cocktails you shake it enough, because you don't want to be able to taste any raw eggs. That's just going to ruin your day. Yeah, that's really good, especially I think for this time of year when everything's cold. Like, you want this kind of nice spiced. You know, it's kind of you could picture having this with some, I don't know, some nice hearty food. The nice thing with this being a low-proof cocktail is you don't have to be super wary with how many you've had. Like, you're going to be fine having a few of these, because again, you only got your 1 pour of your spirit, or 1 ounce of your spirit in each cocktail. Yeah, it's a really nice, like, creamy, spiced, kind of a wintry cocktail. Can't picture a better month to have one. Anyway, on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good drink, and have a good day. Why would I say that? I didn't even know what fucking...